Don't let your eyes deceive you. While this may look like another version of that common rimfire, this little semi-auto owes its allegiance to Thompson Center. Meet the focus of this week's Sunday Gunday, the TC R22. First things first. Yes, this gun looks familiar. Very familiar, in fact. It also happens to function so closely to that other gun that stamped right on the TC R22 spec sheet reads the phrase, compatible with most aftermarket 1022 parts and accessories. How is this possible? Well, without spending more money and time than I have on learning the ins and outs of patent law, I think it's safe to say that the legal suits on both sides of any potential issue have come to the conclusion that this is okay. That's good enough for me, it should be good enough for you. And as much as a cover of this book may lead you to believe it's the same, this isn't the same gun, and you'll soon see why. First, the stock. It's a composite Magpul co-branded stock. Now it's sturdy and lightweight with M-LOK slots under the forend. And yes, it's similar to other common Magpul aftermarket stocks that are already available to anyone with enough green to take one home. The difference here is that you don't have to purchase a rifle with a stock you know you won't use, then spend even more money on an additional stock in order to build a rimfire like this. Thompson Center has done that for you, and it saves you the cost of the original stock. Next, let's talk about the action, as it's another place you'll see some innovation. Now, yes, it's still a blowback operation, but unlike that other rifle, the TC R22 action stays open after the last shot is fired, assuming you use Thompson Center's own 10-round magazine. Now, more on that magazine in a bit. Now, rather than having to compress a bolt release lever under the trigger guard, the TC R22 stainless steel bolt can be sent back into battery simply by pulling it rearward and releasing it. It's simple and intuitive. Now, as for locking the bolt back without a magazine in place, it's still possible via a small lever in the trigger guard. Pull the bolt back, press the button, and you're locked open. So what else makes the TC R22 stand out? How about a threaded, button-rifled 17-inch barrel? Removing the thread protector reveals a 1/2 by 28 threads. Just what you'll need when you realize that a suppressed rimfire is one of the coolest and handiest rifles you could ever own. As for sights, the TC R22 comes with more than decent irons that had no problem stinging steel at 50 yards, as well as a built-in Picatinny-style rail if you decide a red dot or a magnified optic is what you're looking for. Now, I do have one gripe with the TC R22, and it has to do with that included 10-round rotary magazine. Like I mentioned earlier, the magazine's design is a bit different than the 1022 mags you're used to, which, when used, allows the bolt to lock back once the last round has been fired. Now, that's a great feature, but it requires you to complete a seemingly simple yet utterly difficult task first: loading that magazine. After shoving that first round into the magazine and realizing that something isn't quite right, you may notice, just like me, some very small writing on the magazine that reads, "Press lever to load." Now, after fishing out that first improperly loaded round, you'll soon realize that the lever you're required to press is a bit too small and a bit too stiff for your liking. Now, I'm sure it's a result of function dictating design, but loading the TC mag requires a user to compress the load assist lever, which, when done correctly, begins the spring-resisted rotation process, revealing the pocket for the first of 10 cartridges. Now, holding that button down allows you to slip that first cartridge in the magazine, at which point, at least in theory, it should be able to load the following rounds with ease. Well, in practicality, it's perhaps the most frustrating magazine I've ever had the displeasure to load. The process is painful on the finger, and unfortunately, the press lever to load instruction doesn't make it much easier. Now, though I'm sure over time most will figure out its nuances, I know I did, there were still some of us, despite all effort, that simply could not load this magazine during the course of our range day. Lucky for you, the TC R22 does accept all the easy-to-use 1022 magazines already in existence. However, the bolt will not lock back after the last round is fired using those magazines. Now, this is an issue I hope TC addresses quickly, because the lockback function is appreciated and it's a great feature. In the meantime, any number of those already available alternative magazines designed for the 1022 will work. Now, magazines aside, the TC R22 is a handy little rimfire that at only 4 pounds 6 ounces and 35 inches long would make the perfect rifle for survival, small game hunting, or just backyard plinking. Thompson Center has taken the aftermarket parts you're going to pay extra for anyway and made them standard on the TC R22, saving you some cash in the process. With an MSRP of only $399, the possibility of owning this little .22 long rifle is a little closer to reality. To learn more about the Thompson Center TC R22, visit tcarms.com. And for more Sunday Gunday, any day of the week, Stay tuned to AmericanHunter.org.